we can give advice to people and we won't take it. It's easier to give advice to your friends because when you're giving advice to people, you're like, oh, I could see it clear as day.
I will admit I'm a ask hole. That means you always ask for advice, but you never take the advice. So I'm an ask hole.
I mean, we did a TikTok thing and you guys said I was at ask hole.
You are too. You are too. These two are the ask hole.
Yep. Welcome to the Real and Relatable podcast, where no topic is off limits. We're the girlfriends that keep it real and give you different perspectives, because we know one way isn't always the right way. Hi, welcome to the Real and Relatable podcast. My name is Cash.
I'm Ma.
I'm LC.
And I'm MB.
We're very excited to have you here today for our next episode. Before we get started, please remember to like, share, and hit the notification button. Today, I'm excited to share with you our episode. You might have seen on the news, there's been a lot of things going around about Wendy Williams and her new documentary on Netflix, which is called Where is Wendy Williams? Wendy Williams, if you don't know who she is a talk show host who spent her time talking about current events, celebrities, people. In my opinion, I felt like she was bashing a lot of celebrities.
She's very controversial. A very controversial talk show host.
Yeah, and today's podcast is not to talk about Wendy Williams necessarily, but rather to really put the light on a situation where we should walk away from a relationship or a situationship that isn't healthy for ourselves anymore, right? So just to give you some context and history, Wendy Williams was with her man, I don't know, her husband. I think she's been with her partner for a long time, and he was her manager also. So it makes it difficult when you intertwine finances, homes, accounts, or business, right? It makes it harder for you to leave them. But he was helping her as her manager for her show, and he was dating somebody. And what Wendy Williams had set her boundaries for was, okay, you know what? We're together. You mess around with your person. Just don't get her pregnant. Then he got her pregnant. And it kind of turned into this thing where she kind of spiraled out of control, and everything started to come falling down. And now she's, bless her heart, I feel so sorry for her, but she's got a different, I don't know what it's called, but a condition of a dementia that they've compared it to a different celebrity. But how do you know when you've stayed in a relationship for too long? How do you be proactive and try to see the train wreck and walk away before it comes? Or is that something that's out of your control?
It's so hard, honestly. We talk about this all the time, and I feel like everyone has a timeline and everyone has a final straw. So I think it's really hard to kind of gauge, like I was with somebody for 10 years, and it's because we were married, and I used to think marriage was forever. So I was really trying to just keep it going for the sake of the term, even though we were growing apart quickly, being so young, so for me, I feel like it's really hard to know, even if you're unhappy, there's a lot of reasons that you stay in it. And then it's just waiting for that time, waiting for that moment to hit you where hey, you know what? Enough is enough.
I want to echo what you're saying, because I was in a relationship for a really long time. And I think a lot of time, at least for me, it was because of the fact that I've been in the relationship for so long. I'm invested. So I want to continue to see it through. And the moment that I knew it wasn't going to work out is if I really had to think about it. I feel like I want to have a family. That's my ultimate goal. I want to get married. I want to have a family. And I want to see that our future is going to be bright after that happens. And because the relationship was so toxic, I started to think damn, can I really see this guy as the father of my child? Mm-hmm. Is that really responsible?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we did start growing apart, and I started to realize that I enjoyed being away from you more than when we were together.
Mm-hmm.
That's so powerful. Even as much as I wanted to see the relationship through because I invested so much time in it, I felt like when I'm apart from you, I feel the most happy.
Yeah.
So that should have been my clear indicator that nope, it's not going to work. And also the responsible thing is because I want to have a family, I just felt like I couldn't see you as someone that I could be proud of as the father of my child.
Yeah.
I think I would agree with like the both of you. It's like you don't really know what your breaking point is until you hit it.
Yeah.
You know, same thing, you know, I was in a long-term relationship too, and a lot of it is cultural, right? Like you should get married, you should have kids. That's how your life, that's the projection of your life, and that's how you should live your life. So I've always had that mentality of if this relationship doesn't work, that's it. I'm never going to find anybody. I'm going to be single forever, you know? So I had that fear of, oh my gosh, if I break up with
The
him.
fear of like the unknown.
Yeah.
Known and being single.
Yeah.
Like, never gonna find anybody else, you know?
Yeah. And I don't know if you know this, MB, but I know part of the reason why I kind of had the courage to kind of end the relationship that I was in too was because you ended your long-term relationship.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I understand because like all our friends, they were in relationships, they were married, they had kids, and it really was just only you and I that were single.
So when you broke up with your long-term relationship, that kind of gave me the courage of, okay, my life isn't going to end if I break it off with him. There is going to be something beyond this. And life does go on. I'm sure my ex is watching this right now. See, I knew it. I knew it was because of her.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what inspired you. It doesn't matter what gave you strength. The thing is, it helped you see your truth.
Yes.
So I have a question for you guys. So is it part of it the fear of failure or judgment of failure? I mean, you've been married before. Is it afraid to have the house that you've built fall apart? You have to backtrack.
Definitely. And you're young and you don't even know what you're doing, you know? And then you're like afraid because like, you know, also coming from a culture where you stay in a relationship no matter what. You know, that was a little bit scary, you know, but I was talking to my girlfriend, Renuma, actually, and she was like, well, would you rather be single now? Or would you rather be single at 40? Like leave him at 40? Like would you rather leave him at 30 or would you rather leave him at 40? Because she could see that I wasn't happy and that it's not going to, you know, not what I wanted. She just saw that I was just staying for no reason. And when she said that, I was like, holy crap. I do not want to finally make the decision to leave 10 years, in another decade.
Yeah.
I want to do it now.
And I always told Mo about it because like when we were kind of going back and forth, when she was, I was like, you know, nobody regrets leaving early. People regret like leaving later. Nobody's like, damn, I should have waited and
Hallelujah.
right?
That's true.
Everyone
that is
like,
true.
You're always like, damn, why didn't I leave earlier?
Yeah. But sometimes you're not ready until you're ready.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, you know, it was also a large part of it. It was fear because as the relationship progressed, I age, right? And as you age, you kind of, the fear gets instilled in you of you're aging.
Your lack of options.
You need to tie something down right now. If you don't tie something down right now, that's it for you.
like your pool gets smaller and smaller and smaller.
I didn't have that though. I
didn't
wasn't
either.
I wasn't so like, what's the word?
Like
desperate,
consumed.
so consumed by
Yeah.
like, I have to be in a relationship. I have to get married. I have to have children, you know?
But you know, I think it's because of how we dated. Like, I think for us, it was about going out and meeting people. Like, we weren't on dating apps. Like,
yeah, of course. None of us were at that time.
Yeah.
Right. But then, like, for me, I understand where Ma's coming from because I felt like, okay, well, all my girlfriends are in relationships. They have babies. So if I'm the only one single, who the hell am I going out with to meet these guys? Because I want to meet them organically.
Yeah.
But all my girlfriends are in relationships.
So you stayed
now.
because everyone else
because
had a
then it's like-
relationship.
Because you didn't have anybody to go out with to meet new people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, you know, it wasn't like, oh, it's the end of the world relationship, to the point where he didn't beat my ass, you know, and he didn't cheat on me that I know of. So
it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, so it wasn't that bad. So like, why am I gonna leave something that's not that bad for something that potentially could be worse?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's like all those wives that stay in a loveless marriage.
And
not that
honestly, I
bad.
think when you do like go on dates with guys that don't work out or it's not great dates, it kind of makes you feel like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna go back to my ex.
To
It's
what's
way easier.
comfortable.
We have
Yeah.
better chemistry.
Yes.
Versus going on these dates with guys that are weird or don't get you, and it's like it's exhausting.
Yeah.
It is exhausting. I will have to say, dating is not fun
yeah.
and it sucks. You know, there's a lot of weirdos out there and it's just not fun. But at the same time, it's like if you're staying and you're not fulfilled and happy,
I agree.
it's
Yeah.
empty.
I get what you're saying. Dating is hard, but it's okay to wait for the one that's going to treat you right and wait for the one that you really want to be with. It's worse to be in a relationship that's loveless, that you're miserable, that you don't even want to be with, and that's worse than being single.
Yep.
And everyone puts such a negative connotation on being single, but that's not the reality of it.
Agreed. But I will say there are some women and men who stay with someone they're not happy with
Yes.
until another man or woman comes along.
Well, it makes
They
it
jump.
easier.
They jump ships. They wait until there's a better man or a better woman, and then they leave their man
I think
and they
that's
jump
so
to the next
cowardly.
It is, but then I feel
Yeah.
like it makes it easier. So whatever works to get you out of that.
But I will say I've always been I date differently than you because you had the societal pressure of finding somebody and we were raised differently. I was always raised to make sure I don't get pregnant and become a teen statistic when I was in high school. I was always raised to make sure that I follow my dreams, that I make sure that I become a woman, I support myself, that I'm not someone who relies on a man. That was really important for me growing up, you know? And so we're very different.
Yeah.
And I would rather be single and alone because I wanted to follow my heart. I wanted to follow my dreams and my destiny.
Yeah.
So that was my Northern Star, you know? But it's not to say that just because I was okay and when I fell really hard, but I knew I had to be okay being alone because I knew that made me stronger. After, you know, the pendulum swings back out, right? It makes me stronger. However, it's not to say that I can judge, and I don't judge, but it's not to say that I think that I'm better than people who did stay and in a bad relationship, toxic or whatever, until a new man came along and then they jumped to the new man. I'm not going to say that that's bad because maybe I would have done the same if I would have had that situation. I just don't think that I was lucky enough to have a new man, Casanova, come every time I was unhappy, like, hey girl, I that just wasn't me. If that was me, every time I was unhappy, somebody else was knocking on my door, maybe I would have taken that same route.
I think that like you don't know what you don't know. And if you're in a toxic relationship, you might think it's normal because you understand that every relationship goes through challenges, right?
Yeah.
And then until someone comes along and treats you differently, it's like, oh wow, this is how you're supposed to.
You didn't know what you
treated.
were missing out on. Yeah.
That is so beautifully said.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I think that's why a lot of people do stay too, because they don't know how it is to be treated right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I don't disagree. But, you know, I mean, for me, I want to stay until I know 100% that I've given everything that I can. So that when I do walk away, I know I'm done and that I've given everything that I can, and there's just nothing else I can give you. There's nothing left of me to give you. And I am a firm believer that, I know it's really cliche and everybody hates it, that everything happens for a reason. I feel like God or the universe puts people in your path for certain reason. They serve a reason, you know. Yes, it may have been cowardly, may have been wrong, but maybe that is the push that you need
Or else you would never leave.
Yeah, to propel you into the next part of your life, because sometimes you are a coward and you can't make those decisions. So here's this person.
God through you alone.
Yes.
Yeah.
This person is going to help you move on, because without this person, maybe your life will still be exactly the way it still was.
So then, have you all ever found yourself compromising on your own standards where you're just like, wow, I said that I would never tolerate this, but I find myself tolerating this, you know? Have you ever?
So, of course. Yeah.
I
That's why we've stayed this long in relationships. Compromising our own standards.
So I was a firm believer in not giving second chances. I've always stood by, I don't give second chances. There's a reason why we didn't work out in the first place. I don't give second chances. So my ex that I was with for such a long time, we did have a period where we actually broke up and we actually dated other people for a short period of time. And yet we got back together. I broke that rule. So I'm going to go back to my belief of you don't give people a second chance. There's a reason why it happened the way it did in the first place. Because otherwise you're just backtracking. You're taking 2 steps back.
Some people would disagree and be like, hey, because we came back together and we both grew and learned.
Oh, I thought that too. Trust me. I was like, oh my God, it's fate. We belong together. We're going to love it.
But you know what I think?
True.
What I think it does is it causes you to have a lot more insecurities about yourself.
Resentment.
You get upset. And you're not the person you want to show up to
On
be.
both sides.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And like Ma said, to her point, I feel like, when you see red flags and you already have boundaries, and if boundaries are crossed, you shouldn't go and revisit and compromise, because I think all it does is contribute to your insecurities or create insecurities.
Yeah, because you always think, oh, there's an exception, right? There's, okay, in very rare cases, there is exception. But you should always have the mentality of you are never the
You're
exception.
not the exception.
Yeah, and also like my feeling is that people don't change, and so the same habits and characteristics and whatever that you didn't like is still gonna be there, you know. So if you can accept it and move on from it, then okay, try to give them a second chance. But usually, I feel like that same old person returns, and you're like, wait, this is why we broke up in the first place, so I don't give people second chances. I've learned very young. There was a job that I was at earlier in my career. I think this is like one of the first companies I worked for like 4 years, and I left and went to another company, and I wasn't happy there, and my manager and I were friends, and she was messaging me, how's it going? Like 3 months later, how's everything going at the new job? I was like, God, I hate this new company. Like, I think I'm gonna quit fashion, And she's like, oh my God. She's like, I haven't found anybody to replace you. Can you come back here? I'm like, okay, well, if you can meet my new salary, then I'll come back. So she did the whole arrangement, the HR and everybody, and got, the higher pay. And so I went back. And I love this company, and a lot of my good friends are from that company. After a couple of weeks being there, everybody's like, how is it being back? I was like, I love you guys, but it's kind of like getting back with an ex-boyfriend, and it's never going to work.
You said that?
Job, yeah, even with a job, it's like, and that's why now I know, even with a job, when I'm ready to leave, I'm gone, and I will not come back because you just know you're done.
Yeah.
So it's so funny because I apply the relationship rule to the job rule now too.
Well, that makes sense.
Well, it's so interesting for you to see that take form in a different part of your life.
Yeah.
At the professional place, not just in love. So
Yeah. And we're not saying that, second chance.
never say never.
That second chance doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's just personally, 98% of the time it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And not saying that you shouldn't give it a chance, but if there's already like a lot of red flags to begin with in the relationship prior to you getting back together, there's no point of you getting back together. Let it go.
Especially if it's toxic, unhealthy.
And you're still young. Let it go.
But even if you're old, you still have options. Have faith.
So let me ask you, ladies, do you guys get too comfortable being single? Because you guys are all single.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think that for me, I have seen it where I've always been in relationships growing up, from high school to college to after college to even young adult. And I'm not going to try to age myself here, but yeah, there's been times where I just was so used to being single and hanging out with my guy friends. I have a lot of really good childhood guy friends. We would go out, and I started talking to somebody in my past, and it was difficult for me to understand that he felt uncomfortable with me going out to concerts with my music buddies. We're just friends, but I get it. I had to stop and consider his feelings because I was so used to being alone. I was comfortable with it, overly comfortable. And at some point, we're afraid to give up our freedom or change our lifestyles, because when you're in a relationship, you do have to compromise. I'm not there anymore. But I felt that at one point. How about
that? Actually is a long-standing fear of mine. Like, I'm afraid that my independence and whatever I want to do is going to be compromised in a relationship. So I'm always kind of like one foot in, one foot out. But right now, I think I've been single for like a year and a half now, maybe. This is the longest that I've ever been single. And it feels really good, especially at this point in my life, you know, where I feel settled everywhere else and I feel happy. Not to like have a guy and not to always be like caring for someone else and thinking for someone else or whatever. Like I feel nervous now, like going on dates. And like if somebody wants to like spend more time with me, I'm like, oh my God, like I don't know. I need my personal time. I don't know about this.
Stay away.
I get so nervous now when somebody wants to spend more time with me.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, oh my God, they're encroaching on my personal space, my personal time.
I would agree. I think this is the longest I've been single since I was 16. So it's been a long time. I think in the beginning it was a change to kind of be single, but I do find myself getting a little bit nervous when I go on dates and let's say the dates is getting a little bit serious. I do my stomach starts to grumble and I get scared and I end up ghosting them. So that's really bad. I can't help it. I'm scared, you know. And I'm a little bit scared to get in a relationship just because I know how I am in relationships. I'm so involved in my relationship.
Oh my God, you're super dedicated.
That I'm a little bit afraid to get into relationships. And I do like my peace and quiet. I'm not saying that I don't want to be in a relationship, but I feel like it has to be the right one now.
Yeah.
And I am comfortable being by myself now.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit afraid that
You're too comfortable.
Too comfortable by myself. That when it starts to get serious, that I pull away.
I mean, it's scary, you know, like trying to, like now you're starting all over because you're meeting their family, you're meeting their friends, and what if it doesn't work? Now you have to go through the whole breakup process, the whole healing process.
Yeah. I told you guys, I was like Googling, like, how does this work again? Like, how many days do I need to go on?
How to introduce myself.
How to date 101.
Everything.
Where?
How long to wait? How to have a conversation.
Exactly.
With your dates.
How to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Oh, I must care about him if I do this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with being single. It's just, I feel like, I don't know. I don't know what the right amount of time is, but
I don't think there's the right amount.
I don't know. I feel like I'm going down this rabbit hole of being too comfortable being single.
Dating really sucks, and I'm sure all of you who are on dating apps, you understand that.
And I really want to try to enjoy it.
Yeah.
I love dating. I love going on dates, but once
Really?
it starts to get serious, then I'm like nervous.
I hate going on dates.
Are you sure?
Oh, I hate going on
Yeah, I
dates
hate
too.
going on
Sometimes
dates.
there's weird people.
Oh yeah,
she
they
goes
are
on a lot of
weird.
good ones.
Yeah.
They're weird.
You're like, I love
think
being on dates.
I embraces the process more than us.
More than
I almost
Good
got
for you. I mean,
She almost got kidnapped.
almost, yeah.
What?
okay, not good for you there.
Yeah.
Okay.
She
That was
could
funny.
have got drugged and kidnapped. I wouldn't even know which
No,
one.
I think it's just so exhausting.
You guys share your locations with your loved ones. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a
Elsie.
fair.
Wait, now you have my location, right?
I can say you.
Me?
Yeah. I
No,
can see you.
I vet my people like no tomorrow. And now
You usually share your location.
yes,
Yeah, when we live together.
well, MB and her fiance always has my location.
Yeah.
Well, I have her location, but she doesn't share with me her dating plans. So she might be on a mountain. I'm like, oh, she must be skiing.
I would. First of all, I would never be on a mountain.
I don't know.
And if
Oh,
I
she's on
am,
the
I
beach.
will definitely tell you
10 p.m.,
guys.
she's on the beach.
That means I'm done. I'm on the beach at 10 p.m. You better come for me.
I always message my sister, like send a picture of the profile and name
Yeah.
and what information to know about them.
It's important to have these safety tips, you guys.
Especially as a female. Like, I know when I started dating, I would always tell you who I'm going out with because we used to be roommates.
Yeah.
So I would tell her who he is, what his name is, where we're going. I would drop my pin so she knows because you never know. It's scary for a female.
It is.
Okay, now we're
You
going
guys are
off.
just way too
You have
scared.
to
No,
be.
you just are just really
lax.
yes.
Too
Yeah,
lax.
I don't know. For some reason, I'm super lax.
Do you understand
That's
this
why
is
you almost got kidnapped. if you got kidnapped, you're.
I don't understand. Another episode. Or can I tell my story?
No, because you know what? If you got kidnapped, your brother would be like,
Okay, we need to tell
"Where
this
is
episode.
Elsie?"
I know.
I didn't even know she was gone.
Yeah.
I'm in my room.
I'm used to being like super independent and doing my own thing, you know? And so like once I started dating a lot more, like last year, I would say, like I was like messaging my sisters, like who they are, you know. I wasn't saying where I was going, but if you don't hear from me, then this is the person I went on a date with, you know.
Yeah, but that doesn't help if he buries your body 200 miles outside of the geographic location. We're never gonna find you.
Stay within range. Thank you all for tuning in. I just wanted to wrap it up here because I think that it's important for us to talk about our expectations for our own relationships and when we're over compromising and when we kind of have to draw that boundaries and pull back a little bit, you know. But we're all different and we all hang in there. And I have friends. We can give advice to people and we won't take it. It's easier to give advice to your friends because when you're giving advice to people, you're like, oh, I could see it clear as day. Do this and that, you know. But
I will admit I'm a ask hole. That's it. That means you always ask for advice, but you never take the advice. So I'm an ask hole. My sister-in-law can attest to that.
I mean, we did a TikTok thing and you guys said I was an asshole.
You are too.
You know,
These two are the assholes.
Yep.
I'm such an asshole that one time I asked two of my friends what kind of font I should have my tattoo as, and they told me the font. And when I got my tattoo, I'm like, oh, I'll get the font that they didn't like. So that's how much of an asshole I am, you know. But thank you so much for tuning in. And if you have any questions, ideas, suggestions, or anything to share, please post it in the comments. We do read all of them, and we do our best to respond and reply. But very, very happy that you're tuning in with us. And it makes a big difference if you do like, subscribe, share. So thank you all so much. I hope you enjoyed our episode and the perspectives that we wanted to share with you today. Have a good one.
Bye.